Welcome to the Empty the Bench Podcast Network's Best of 2024 video series, presented by Playback. While you break out your holiday traditions and enjoy the festivities, join us on a look back that was the year in sports in 2024. This is the Best of Bando's Breakdowns 2024 Part 1 with Zain Bando on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network.
First time ever, welcome to Bando's Breakdowns Best of 2024 Part 1. My name is Zain Bando. Thank you again for joining me today. It is the holiday season, so I know a lot of people are very busy. But this is going to be sort of a half year in review, if you want to call it that, considering that this show did begin in April. So I'm excited to take you through all the highlights and lowlights of the year on this show, kind of what the journey of this show is all about. What we learned throughout several months of the year, and just kind of where we're headed. So it's good to be able to do this. It's the first time I've ever done a solo best of before, so it's definitely a new and unique experience for me. But I'm just going to go into first off, just letting you guys know that we do a bunch of playback streams on the network as well. There's a lot of verticals across the network. I'm obviously a part of this show. I'm a part of the MMA Outsiders. I'm also a part of Forever Power 5. So there's a lot of stuff going on the network side, as well as Football Forecast, which is still in season. We're getting closer and closer to the postseason. At the time that this is being put out, around Christmas, of course, and so much more. So there's kind of a lot going on just vertical wise, and there's a lot that I'm involved in here, but this is my main flagship show that I started in April. So just to get into, kind of the origins of this show and what the show is all about. So I had this idea to host my own solo podcast for probably about 6 or 7 months or so. And it finally came together after some network reshuffling, if you want to call it that. And it just fit right in. So this is, obviously, for those of you who've listened and watched the show by now, this is my 30 to 45 minute unfiltered opinion on the world of sports and entertainment. And that's what I want to bring to you guys. So it's everything from Chicago sports to college football, college basketball, combat sports, and so much more. A little bit more about me. 90% of my professional life, if you will, is as a sports journalist. I write for a lot of different outlets as a freelancer, whether that's Field Level Media, whether that's Resilience Media, which is subcontracted out to the Sporting News. So you'll see my articles on the Sporting News, whether it's MMA Knockout, and whether it's any other places that you might have seen my work, whether it's Reuters or other smaller local papers within the area that syndicate to Field Level Media. So that's kind of what I do. That's what I kind of do in regards to a professional sense, as well as host these shows independent of everything that I just said. So I'm excited to take you through what this year was from my perspective, and we're going to start with the first month of the year. We had April, or at least the first month of this show. This show took a little bit to get rolling, but we had a bunch of stuff that happened in the month of April to start. So just to kind of get into it a little bit more, this was the month where obviously the Caleb Williams hype began. Was he going to go to the Bears? He obviously eventually did go to the Bears. We also had some issues, or I had some concerns about streaming services and how I thought the market was being oversaturated with streaming, whether it was DAZN, whether it was Netflix, whether it was ESPN Plus pay-per-view. And then, of course, we also had, the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. I mean, obviously, this was when, it was right before the WNBA draft. It was when she was finishing up her career at Iowa. This is when she was kind of being disrespected by the national media, saying that she didn't deserve the fame that she got and so much more. So it was a very, very interesting April. It was a fun April, and it was one of those Aprils where I think people won't ever forget it, because you were either enjoying sports in April at that time, either because UFC 300 had just wrapped up, whether it was because the Final Four had just wrapped up at this particular moment, et cetera, et cetera. So now what we're going to do is we're going to throw to those clips to kind of document what the month of April was all about. Caleb Williams, obviously highly touted quarterback out of USC, is expected to be taken number one by the Chicago Bears in this upcoming draft, the 2024 NFL draft. Just a shameless plug. We are going to have an NFL draft live stream on the ETB network on Thursday that's going to react to the entire first round, including this number one overall pick, which I'm very excited to be a part of. Obviously, Caleb Williams is one of the best quarterback prospects in quite some time, had monster numbers at USC, led them to a bunch of wins. Didn't quite make it to the national championship as people were kind of expecting, but still a super hot prospect, someone to really keep your eye on if you've ever seen him play before. He can do everything. He's elusive in the pocket, outside of the pocket, can throw the deep ball, and tremendous receivers to throw to, and is just really a big time special player, and someone that USC was extremely lucky to have, because he was the engine that it made that offense work. And the Bears need someone who's a dynamic playmaker, someone who can, play through adversity, someone, who can really, be there to step up for the team and, make big plays when needed. And if you can put, you know, a Dunne or a Malik Neighbors, around Williams at number 9, and if you could get some other pieces on the offensive line, and of course have some defensive prowess to complement Williams, the Bears should be set up for success in the next 4 to 5 years. Don't expect the Bears to trade this pick. Don't expect them to do anything crazy. They are taking Caleb Williams. Although I was a huge Justin Fields fan, I am excited for the future. I hope he does well in Pittsburgh, but Caleb Williams is the guy. So you want to talk about a monumental shoe deal. This is as monumental as it gets. Nike is already the biggest shoe company on the planet. They just added arguably one of the most popular and most influential and most transcended athletes, if you will. If you don't like what Caitlin Clark is doing for the sport of women's basketball, I truly think that just something is totally wrong with you. She is doing everything she can to grow the game in the biggest ways possible. And the first thing you have to do is you have to know how to market. And she knows that well with her millions of Instagram followers. And the second thing you have to do is you have to invest in the consumer. And what I mean by that is by putting more WNBA on TV, by putting more quality WNBA games on TV that and include her or don't include her, that include other college prospects, like a Cordozo or like an Angel Reese, for example. Both of them are going to be a part of the Scotty. You're bringing in eyeballs that maybe have never seen the sport before. So for her to get to this level and to have this sort of stardom and to know, how many young women she's looking up to, it truly is just awesome. And I'm excited to see how she does with the Fever. The Fever could win 15 games this year, or they could win every single game. And her impact of what she's been able to do to grow the game is just awesome. And all she said was she obviously cares about winning, because she's one of the most competitive players that we have in our sport today. But the biggest thing that she said was she wants to grow the game and she wants to have fun. And I think this is a part of the having fun part. Of she gets to partner with such a powerful brand, Nike, to really sell her shoe and to really show that she's on the level with some of these some of these star hoopers that are on the male dominated side. So it's good to see that he's doing so well, and everyone should support this shoe deal however they can, whether it's buying her kicks, whether it's retweeting everything that Nike does, whether it's buying a gift card for someone that doing anything to support this deal. I think is great. I am someone of age, and obviously, I grew up in the internet age, if you will, or the premium internet age with social media and all that stuff. I stream as much as anybody. I have every single streaming service known to man. You name a streaming service, I probably have it. But holy cow, it is so oversaturated in the sports TV market that it is literally downright nuts. You mean to tell me that Amazon, which you alluded to this on episode 81 of the MMA Outsiders, if you have not watched it, go check it out. It released yesterday evening. It was a great show. We previewed UFC, boxing, and so much more. But we also talked about a very interesting feat that Amazon is now going into the NBA streaming business where they are going to exclusively stream an NBA postseason game. And I just want to say, what happened to the playoffs being free to air to everyone? What happened to people having basic cable and being able to say, hey, I want to turn on TNT, or I want to turn on TBS, or I want to turn on NBC, or I want to turn on CBS, or any of these networks and just simply watch the game? You don't need to go between one app to another. You don't need to subscribe to this bundle. You don't need to pay this $20 a month. Like, what happened to simpler times? And I understand these streaming services are slowly but surely figuring out ways to give the sports consumer what they want. As you all know, there's going to be a sports streaming service, with Warner Brothers and ESPN, where they're going to come together and try to give sports fans their fix. But is the rumored price of $60 a month really worth it when you don't even have Paramount? Like, what are we like? I just don't understand in the grand scheme of things. Like, what happened to just being able to watch your regional sports network on regular TV? So we just got out of discussing April. We finished talking about oversaturation of streaming services and much, much more outside of that. Now we're going to get into the month of May. This month was a little bit more exciting considering that we had a lot going on. We had the Tyson Fury Oleksandr Usyk fight. This was also in the middle of the NBA postseason, in the middle of a few other things. So we're just going to go through just kind of what I thought May was all about. So just kind of looking here, I kind of went in regards to pay-per-view streaming services after Luke Thomas made a video suggesting that ESPN Plus was one of the worst streaming platforms on the planet when it came to purchasing and watching UFC with no issues. He made a full-length video in regards to his experience, with just overall with streaming post UFC 301, was very concerned how he would order the rest of the events and how it was impacting people just buying the pay-per-views at large. Also, this was around that time too that Olivia Dunne did that short video with Sports Illustrated, and I don't know, I just disagreed with some of the questions that were posed to her, and I basically defended her and said that she should be able to live her life however she wants, no matter what her food preferences were, or et cetera, et cetera. Then I also went into a rant regarding the Fury Usyk 1 fight, the decision, what happened in round 9 specifically, if there was going to be a rematch, and so much more. So let's watch those clips and see what I thought of May, and we will be right back. UFC 301 and Canelo versus Munguia took place on Saturday, and according to some very prominent people in the combat sports space, there were two totally different viewing experiences. For those who purchased Canelo versus Munguia from Las Vegas, which, by the way, Canelo won in a 12-round decision. For those who purchased it on ppv.com, which was the only way to purchase the fight without needing a subscription, they had a flawless experience. They got full commentary. They got the full event. They got an analysis from Jim Lampley and Spudmeyer. They got a full commentary team. They got Ariel Helwani doing the in-ring interviews. They got everything the boxing production would expect, versus the UFC side, where, according to, again, and several prominent MMA media members, the biggest one being Luke Thomas, the pay-per-view was impossible to order. Full disclosure, I did not purchase either one. I was at a bar, so I saw the commercial feed of this event, so I had no issue seeing it. But you mean to tell me that, like, 6 years into this ESPN experiment, that we're still having issues buying the pay-per-view? Really? Like can't ESPN just learn by now that people wanna spend their hard-earned money. They want to watch whatever they want to watch, whether it's a fight or another pay-per-view event, and move on with their evening. People do not have time to sit on the phone for an hour and a half asking why the heck the pay-per-view doesn't work, why they can't see it, why they're being charged 2 to 3 times. It's 2024, with streaming being the present, with streaming being the future, with streaming being whatever. This should already be figured out. People should not be willed, if you will, or forced to give in to ESPN's demands. And you want to know something interesting? There were several thousand fans too that had the same issue that purchased 301, and one person, which I'll keep anonymous, said that the response from ESPN was to purchase it the next day. I'm sorry, the next day when the event's over. For those of you guys who know or don't know, she is currently dating who was the number one overall pick for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Paul Skenes. Well, as we know, he's just got called up to the Pirates. I think it was mid to last week, and he's slowly but surely starting his MLB career. But it's something off the diamond that I think has not been covered as much as it should be, and that is what ESPN decided to do when Paul Skenes was called up by the Pittsburgh Pirates. Of course, Olivia Dunne made a TikTok to celebrate her boyfriend's accomplishments, as she should. The TikTok was very much Olivia Dunne themed TikTok. If you follow her TikTok, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't need to get into that any further. But what I do need to express is my disappointment in ESPN. They are the worldwide leader in sports. They're someone of authority when it comes to sports news and sports pop culture and all that. And of course, the TikTok showed both of them in celebration together. What does ESPN do, and what do they do across all forms of their social media? They only tag Livy Dunne. There could be several reasons for this. It could very easily be that Livy Dunne has more of a multitude of followers than Skenes does. It could be because more people know who Livy Dunne is just from a brand perspective, or it could simply be because they were careless and they didn't remember to hit edit before they posted it. Regardless of what the reason why as to him not being tagged, the fact of the matter is that he's trying to build a brand, he's trying to build a face himself, and the only way you're going to be able to get traction is if people know who Paul is just as much as they do Livy. So although it may seem like such a minor thing, it just doesn't make sense when you have two people in a video, regardless of what it is. This was an action-packed fight. It was for the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship. First time in 25 years that an Undisputed Heavyweight Champion was crowned, as Oleksandr Usyk defeated Tyson Fury by split decision. 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards had Usyk winning the fight. One judge had it 115-112. The other judge had it 114-113. This was a 12-round slugfest of sorts. Tyson Fury got the better of Oleksandr Usyk early, but you could tell that Tyson Fury started to slow down in around round 7, 8, and 9 or so. And then round 9 is where things got really interesting. As Tyson Fury got caught with a punch, I think it was the left hook, and he got up against the ropes, and Usyk started wailing on him. And to people's surprise, but it isn't a surprise to people who know boxing, referee Mark Nelson decided to institute a 10 count because there's no such thing as being saved by the bell. So therefore, because Mark Nelson didn't stop the fight, that's what he had to institute, and the fight continued. Obviously, it ended up being a slugfest of sorts in rounds 10, 11, and 12. And of course, Usyk was able to secure the decision when the punch stats were quite close. It was in around the 40% range for Usyk midway through the fight. Same with Fury. I think it was between rounds 4 and 6 that fight really started to get interesting. Stats wise, those are the 2 best heavyweights in the world. There's no way this rematch won't happen. Unfortunately, it's not going to be undisputed because the IBF is instituting a mandatory challenger, and they want eventually Usyk to fight Filip Hrgovic, who's the next number 1 contender over on that side of things. But more than likely, he'll have to wait because there is an immediate rematch clause, and that'll be interesting to see what all of the promoters do, because as we know, boxing is a very strange sport, and they like to have all the power. But as long as it's in Saudi Arabia, again, more than likely it's going to be promoted the right way. So June, we're coming into summer officially. This was obviously the first month this summer, of course, and this was without question the highest controversy month of this portion of the show in its way too early history. So just to give you a little bit of a breakdown, a lot was discussed. This was when the UFC Netflix media rights deals we're starting to heat up, or early discussions, if you will, about the potential for the UFC to go to Netflix. We still don't know where the UFC's rights deal is going to land at the end of 2025, as we know that they're currently with ESPN Plus right now. They have been since January of 2019, and they're going to be until the end of 2025, of course. So this was when that was starting to happen, and then of course for what felt like forever was the Conor McGregor Michael Chandler saga. Was the fight going to happen? Was it not going to happen? Spoiler alert for those of you who don't already know, McGregor injured his toe. The fight was postponed. The fight ultimately has not happened yet. Conor McGregor still has not returned to the octagon since July of 2021, and Michael Chandler is fresh off a loss in a rematch to Charles Oliveira. If and when the Conor McGregor fight will happen remains to be seen. And then, of course, this was also when Ryan Garcia went off the rails after his suspension, et cetera, et cetera. He actually has an exhibition fight coming up within the next several weeks or so before his suspension is up. But without further ado, let's watch these crazy clips. And June also felt like the month where breaking news was just happening so often that I felt like I was making more short videos than I've ever made in my entire time being a podcast host. So this was definitely a very fun, exhausting month when it comes to breaking news. And here are the clips being shown right now. We're going to talk about the possibility of Netflix potentially becoming one of the newest broadcast partners for the UFC. It is being reported by the Sports Business Journal within the last several days that the UFC could potentially be in talks with Netflix for a new TV deal. Potentially, when their contract expires in 2025. I'm pretty sure it's at the end of 2025, if I'm not mistaken. In any event, though, this is gigantic. I mean, Netflix is now in the business of boxing. They're in the business of live comedy. They're in the business of potentially the NFL. They will be in the business. They will be in business with the NFL later in December. But my point in bringing this all up is that Netflix is really trying to shoot for the stars when it comes to this live sports thing. The UFC's virability, the UFC's social media marketing strategy, the way they go about promoting the fighters and promoting their champions, it's a perfect fit for Netflix. As we all know, the pay-per-view model is going away. It's going into more, an a la carte streaming uh respect, or however you want to describe it, where you pay, upfront a certain fee and you get everything, or you have no subscription and you just pay a flat fee, very similar to what ppv.com is doing. So if the UFC goes over to Netflix, I think you could very well see, a possibility where the pay-per-views are on, Netflix, the numbered UFCs, i.e. UFC 303, et cetera, et cetera. And you could very well see the fight night shows, which have been primarily on ESPN Plus and not linear ESPN. You could maybe see them all go to ESPN Plus, which I actually think would make it easier, because if you think about it, that's sort of how the NFL is. The NFL has the AFC package, and the NFL CBS rights deal has the AFC package, and Fox has the NFC. It could very well be, something remotely similar to that. He isn't taking any of this like a man. He's not taking this on the chin. He's not, admitting to, any sort of wrongdoing. I think he's taking this the wrong way. He's mocking the commissions. He's mocking Devin Haney. he's trying stand-up comedy literally because he knows that he can't compete in the United States. Wait, I just don't understand. He's literally around my age. I feel like the people that he has around him are not guiding him in the most professional way. If I was a member of his PR team, I would tell him to stay off of all social media. Take care of yourself. Still stay in training. It doesn't seem like he's doing any of that. It seems like he's doing whatever the heck he wants to do. And even the stuff at the poker table, like him getting drunk at the poker table. Like, what are you doing? And what are you? And also, what are you doing going on? I'm just gonna say it because it's the correct name of the social media platform. Is what are you doing going on X Spaces and calling out Sean O'Malley and saying, "Oh, I want to fight Sean O'Malley," but Sean O'Malley knows he can't speak to me because he's protected by Dana White. Why even remotely say that? Anybody can listen to any extreme that they want. He or X space extreme, whatever the heck you want to call it. You can listen to any extreme that you so choose. It's none of your business whether Sean O'Malley speaks to you or if he doesn't. It's also none of your business if whoever is running your X space can't get him to speak to you. It's only his decision whether or not he wants to speak to you. So I feel like he's being an egotistical maniac. He's losing a ton of fans, including myself. Is he a wonderful boxer? Absolutely. I'm taking anything away from his boxing ability. I think he's a brilliant boxer. I think he had a brilliant game plan to beat Devin Haney. I'm not discounting any of that, but what I am saying is you got to chill, bro. You're still in your mid 20s. You got to figure out, if you can come back 100% clean, and if you can, come back and fight. If not, stay out of the way. On social media a couple of days ago, Conor McGregor finally came out and explained why he had to pull out of UFC 303, and it was due to a toe injury. Let's just say this: his toe did not look good. It was different colors. The picture was a little bit disturbing, and there are some people that are mocking him, and there are some people saying, "Oh, I never want to see him fight anymore." I'm just gonna be blunt, and I'll talk about this more in my Zan Zinger, but there are very few fighters in combat sports, MMA or boxing, that I've followed as closely as him. I've watched every single one of Conor McGregor's fights since 2013, even before he came to the UFC. I remember when he became a Cage Warriors double champion, and he was the biggest star out of Ireland at the time. So to hear him be as vulnerable as he was, that he's come into the octagon hurt before, and that he's done things for the betterment of the promotion and to please the fans, and he's now realizing that his health is coming first. And the last thing I'd want to see from a Michael Chandler fight like this is a compromised Conor McGregor again, where he doesn't fight very well and he fights like he did in the trilogy fight with Poirier, and he re-aggravates the shin, or he re-aggravates the toe even more. That's the last thing that I would want to see as both an MMA fan and as someone who covers the sport. I don't want to see that. I do wish though that the UFC was a little bit more transparent about this whole thing though, because if they would have just said from the start that his toe was injured, I would have had no issue with it at all. I would have had very little panic. I would have just been like, okay, he's hurt. For it to finally come out the week of the fight, the week of the originally scheduled fight, if you will, a week after the fight was postponed, is just extremely disappointing. I hope he heals up 1,000%. All right, now coming out of June, we move into July, which was a bit more of a quieter month, but we also had a lot going on. This was when the Bronny James craze began to settle in with him on the Lakers, at least during the NBA Summer League. This was when I made my rant, touching ESPN. And so for those of you who haven't seen this clip that's going to be coming up here in the next couple of minutes, I think it's an all-timer in the early history of this show. We also had a lot more that occurred. This was also when the Conor McGregor Michael Chandler speculation of the fight being rescheduled for potentially UFC 306, which eventually took place at the Sphere, was going on, and that felt like it was several weeks. And then obviously that didn't happen. Sean O'Malley ended up headlining UFC 306, losing to Merab Dvalishvili. And then, of course, this was also when we were getting geared up for the college football season, and I gave my early thoughts on what to expect in the newly expanded 18-team league that is now the Big Ten Conference, which just recently wrapped up its championship game and has its playoff deciders already in the field. We got a bunch of teams out of the Big Ten this year, which was very, very exciting to see. So if you want a little bit of a mix of everything, whether it's basketball, MMA, or college football, without further ado, here are those. Bronny James was drafted 55th overall, to the Los Angeles Lakers, and people were furious. People could not believe how much money he was getting for the number of years that he signed his contract for. And now all of a sudden, ESPN is all in on the Bronny James train. Not only are they all in, they're all in and then some. They're airing several games of Bronny James across linear ESPN for the NBA Summer League, and I cannot freaking stand this. And the reason why I can't stand it is because, let's face it, the dude was not good at USC. I'm just going to put it to you straight. He wasn't good at USC, wasn't good at USC at all. His younger brother, Bryce, might actually be better than him. And this is all just a play to keep his dad around. And it's his dad, meaning LeBron James, for a couple more years. This is all play. This is all to get ratings. This is all to get views. This is all to boost the revenue of the worldwide leader in sports. This helps the Lakers brand. This does everything you could possibly want if you are an absolute hater of the Los Angeles Lakers and Bronny James. And for those of you who are, I would highly suggest not watching any of these games because you're feeding into the narrative that the kid is actually good and the kid isn't. And to me, it's absolutely disappointing from an ESPN perspective that given the downtime in sports, given what's currently going on in sports with just the MLB and eventually the Olympics coming up, and with Wimbledon upping up as well, and with a whole avalanche of UFC and boxing, there are so many other things that you could be airing right now on ESPN instead of random NBA Summer League games that probably won't matter because he's going to eventually end up in the G League for a couple of years before even remotely stepping on an NBA court in regular season games. You mean to tell me that this is a good business move for ESPN? Yeah, it's only a good business move for ESPN from a monetary perspective, but nothing else other than that. And truly, if ESPN would look in the mirror, they would realize that, quite frankly, nobody cares. Conor McGregor is back in training, and essentially, given the time that we're recording this, he's now 9 weeks out from what would be the rated season UFC 306 Noche UFC 2 Spear date. And there's been some rumblings coming out that maybe Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko might not happen, according to comments from Tracy Cortez on the MMA Hour a couple of days ago from the time this recording is being released. So this is all up in the air. All I can say is this. Dana White has spent millions and millions of dollars to try to put the production on for this event and make it the best possible event that it can be. It's around $16 million last I checked. $16 million, in my opinion, can only mean one thing. The biggest star in mixed martial arts, the biggest star in combat sports over the last several years, even though he hasn't fought in 3 years, is Conor McGregor. The biggest fight you can make at the Sphere right now is Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler on the secondary market, which is StubHub and SeatGeek and several of these other sites. The official AXS UFC tickets haven't come out yet. Again, the secondary market tickets are thousands and thousands of dollars. We're talking like $2,000 for the worst seat in the building. Okay, you mean to tell me that if secondary tickets are you mean to tell me that if secondary tickets are already being posted for $2,000, $3,000 for a card that's 9 weeks away, has no officially announced bouts by the promotion. Some bouts are being put out by reputable reporters, but the UFC is yet to confirm any of them at this particular point in time. You mean to tell me that the secondary market is tickets that are thousands and thousands of dollars? That can only mean one thing. The biggest star in the sport is coming back. I'm making a prediction that the fight is not going to be August 31st. This fight is taking place at the Sphere one way or another. Football media days are currently commencing as we speak, and that also means that August is drawing very, very close, which is very exciting to see. So again, Ohio State ranked number 1 in the Cleveland.com poll. Oregon at number 2. Penn State at 3. Michigan at 4. Iowa at 5. USC at 6. Wisconsin at 7. Nebraska at 8. Rutgers at 9. Washington at 10. Maryland at 11. Minnesota at 12. Illinois at 13. Northwestern at 14. UCLA at 15. Michigan State at 16. Indiana at 17. And Purdue at 18. So that's kind of an overlook on the Big Ten with about a month to go until the season officially begins. So that wraps up the first half of the year. Thank you again for tuning in. We had a very interesting first half of the year with a lot of very, very fun topics. So I hope you enjoyed just kind of getting a glimpse as to what this show was like in its early infancy stages. But please be sure to come back for part 2, as that's going to be a very, very exciting segment. That's going to chronicle the end of the year. So the best of Bando's Breakdowns 2024 Part 2 will premiere on Christmas Day, December 25th, presented by Playback. Same time as my usual show, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Looking forward to seeing all of you guys there as we put a bow on the year, or I guess most of the year based on when this show began. That was 2024. So until then, I will see you guys then, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a good one.